If you believe in privilege and you use it to classify other people in this world, you are a bigot, you are a racist, you are sexist, you're classist, you're chauvinist. You're a combination of everything. You're worse than everything that you are trying to fight because you are using factors that people cannot change about themselves to classify and label them. What is going on, world? I am the Hungarian Experiment, and we're not going to waste any time in this video. Let's just hop right into it. This is going on a lot. A lot of discussions are happening about this in society. Privilege. What is privilege? Are people more privileged than others? This is a concept that I want to discuss, and I also want to know your opinions on. So towards the end of this video, once I get my opinion out there, I'd love to know what you think about my opinion and my opinion on privilege, and how I think that if you believe in privilege, then you also believe in discrimination. And if you believe in discrimination, that also means you believe in racism, you believe in classism, you believe in sexism, you believe in any kind of form of categorizing human beings. And when you start doing that, you start labeling and categorizing human beings by traits and features that they cannot help, things that they inherently cannot change about themselves, like the color of their skin or their gender or their social class, that I believe you are getting into very dangerous rhetoric, that you need to be very, very careful how you're walking yourself through it. And I find a lot of people think that they can just blindly claim something like intersectionality and use this as a basis to discuss these things, to discuss how someone has more or less than someone else based on things that they cannot change about themselves. So in this video, I'm actually going to use a discussion I had on Facebook. Someone actually posted up this photo right here. And that photo actually caused a lot of comments to come, and one from a gentleman here. We're going to feature his comment. I'm going to remove his name, but I want to document and display the discussion I had with this gentleman, because I find that this happens a lot, especially on Facebook, when two people of very different opinions get together and have these types of discussion that really nothing comes from it. No one's actually rebuttaling each other's points. They're just throwing their emotional angst and their emotional weight into this discussion, and really nothing is coming from that. And I personally believe that this is going to take us into a weird state in society where we are now starting to judge people again by the color of their skin, when this is something for the last 50 to 100 years we've been trying to avoid. So let's get into it. So this gentleman who commented on this post posted 2 laughing emojis, and he said, "You'd have to be a fool to truly believe that this is a myth." I'm not going to dive too much into this, you can just read it right here, but then he continued on using anecdotal points, I don't know, from his own life or maybe from other people he's witnessed maybe, and saying white privilege as far as not being followed in a store, or white privilege as far as not being stopped while driving a nice car. But what really got me from his comment is when he said, the sooner people start realizing the areas that they are privileged in, the sooner that they can become allies to those who are not privileged. He said, being privileged is not a bad thing if you acknowledge it, but it's harmful if you keep on being ignorant about it. Now, I just did not really resonate with that. I did not agree with that point at all. So I continued to watch a little bit of what he was commenting. Him and the original poster had a really long back and forth. They were supporting each other, but also highly disagreeing with each other. So I said to him, you claim that it's harmful to not notice privilege, or that people should be allies to those who are not privileged. And I followed that up by saying, you do realize that by doing this, you want people to classify each other based on the color of their skin. You want people to make an assumption before they even know this person that they should be treated with a different level of respect, whether higher or lower, based solely upon the color of their skin. So basically, man, you want people to be racist in order to acknowledge this concept of privilege. And I said to him, like, you do realize that this is kind of contradictory, right? So then we had a bit of a back and forth. I'm not going to waste time in this video with that. There will be a blog post with our whole conversation if you really care to actually see the whole discussion that went out between the two of us. Again, that's in a blog post, and you can find that in the description box below. But this is how I kind of followed up the whole conversation, because it just really did not make sense. Basically, I asked him to kind of prove what I asked there, and he turned to a group of Indigenous people here in Canada and discussed discussed how when they are rallying that we should go and rally with them, or someone of privilege should go and rally with them. But I said, look, on an individual level, from person to person, one person looking at another person, how do I know that this person has more or less privilege than me without judging them based on things that they can't change, like their sex, or the color of their skin, or their height, or their clothes? You're asking me to be judgmental. You're asking me to be racist. You're asking me to be classicist. You're asking me to be sexist in order to judge this person based on whether they have privilege or not. Personally, I believe that it is impossible to delegate privilege to a certain being on this planet without first discriminating against them. It's just not possible. You cannot look at someone and judge their level of privilege without discriminating against them. If you believe in privilege, you are saying that you willingly discriminate against other human beings based upon factors that they cannot change about themselves. Just for the record, synonyms to discrimination are prejudice, racism, classism, sexism, chauvinism, favoritism, and bigotry. And you're using that to label them. This is no better than the racism 50 to 100 years ago. I love this new word, intersectionality. It's basically a broad term to cover up the fact that you're a racist, you're classist, you're sexist, you're a bigot, you're prejudiced. When labeling someone as privileged or not privileged, you are willingly looking beyond the individual and looking at their characteristics. You're diving into the traits that separate you from them and classifying them in a group with all the other people that match them. Whether that's by race or gender or social status or any of these factors that you choose to label someone by their privilege or their not privilege. You are looking for differences, and the more you go looking for them, the more you're gonna find them. All right, well, there you have it, world. There's my opinion on privilege and this new word that everyone's loving to use, intersectionality. The way I see it is the more we try to get together as groups to help the whole, we're almost separating ourselves back out. And I don't think a lot of people who are using this word privilege and using this word intersectionality see how it's actually causing us to separate ourselves even more, to label ourselves and put ourselves in groups from each other. So that's just my opinion on that. And as with my opinion, hopefully you watched through this whole video. I'd love to know what you think about this. If you'd like to rebuttal any of my points, please go throw them in the comment section below there. I'd love to have an intellectual discussion back and forth. But if you guys choose to take the time to actually read the little Facebook interaction I had with this gentleman, he didn't bother to answer any of my questions. He didn't bother to rebuttal any of my points, which I did for him. And that's where I ended the discussion. Because I'm like, man, like, where are we going with this? You just keep telling me things that you want to say. I keep rebuttaling these points and asking you questions, and you don't bother answering the questions. So we're getting into this weird state in society where everyone's right. Everyone has their opinion. But just because you have an opinion doesn't mean you're fucking right. And I'm going to rip it apart here on my YouTube channel, just like I've done in the past. And I'm going to continue to do it even more. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you have any other opinions you'd want me to rip apart, throw those in the comment section below too. I love to know what's going on in your mind. And yeah, thank you guys so much for watching this video. I am the Hungarian Experiment.